This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. It's your Weekly Blitz with Chris, keeping you in the game.
Are you ready to supercharge your auto repair business? This is Coach Chris Cotton from AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching. The Weekly Blitz is where industry expertise and business innovation collide, revving your engines for the week ahead. Every episode has game-changing insights, up-to-the-minute industry updates, and practical tips to shift your business into high gear. We're talking about stuff you didn't even know you didn't know, folks. This episode is brought to you by Shop Marketing Pros, the experts in marketing for top-tier auto repair shops. If you're running a successful shop but want to take it to the next level, Shop Marketing Pros is without a doubt your best option. From websites and SEO to social media and digital ads, Shop Marketing Pros help shop owners like you fill your bays, grow your revenue, and build the life you've been working for. Are you ready to take the guesswork out of your marketing? Visit shopmarketingpros.com/Chris to get a free digital marketing inspection and start building the shop of your dreams today. Good morning, everybody. I have a topic that's actually come up several times this week. It's something that I don't remember talking about in the near past, in the recent past, whatever, you know what I mean? But I think it's very important if you've got a shop that's been operating for 20 years, if you've got a shop that's been operating for 2 years, this is something that you can do to have an impact on your shops. And what I'm talking about is the importance of watching your parts cost in auto repair and how do we do that. When it comes to running a successful auto repair shop, controlling your parts cost is a vital component of maintaining profitability. However, managing parts isn't just about getting the best price up front. It's about developing processes that ensure efficiency and accuracy throughout your shop's workflow. We're getting ready to talk about and explore the importance of watching your parts cost and the key factors that can make or break your bottom line. This is core returns, new part returns, and processes for receiving parts. I just got off the phone with a client talking about this, and the first thing is core returns. So I don't want you to leave money on the table. Core charges can add up quickly if they're not managed properly. You know, these are refundable deposits on parts like starters, alternators, and brake calipers, and these can all affect your overall cost if cores aren't returned promptly. Number one, you have to have a way to track every core. You need to create a system for tracking cores as they're removed, stored, and eventually returned. And you have to ensure that every technician understands the importance of identifying and setting aside cores for return. Next, you have to work closely with your suppliers. You need to know the return policies and deadlines for your suppliers. Everybody's probably different. If you miss the deadlines, this can mean forfeiting your refundable deposit. Next, you have to assign accountability. You need to designate someone on your team, someone in your shop, to oversee core returns and ensure they're handled efficiently. If we're talking about the process for just a minute, one of the first things that I suggest you do, and one of the things that we do in our shop, is as soon as that box comes in and you know it's a core, we have a red label that says core, hold for return on it. And you slap that label on the box before it ever goes back to the technician. That way there's no questioning, was this a core or wasn't this a core? Also, the technician needs to understand that the minute they get that part out of the vehicle and back in that box, that it goes back to the return shelf wherever you have designated core returns. The other process we use for tracking cores in our shop is when, after it goes to the shelf, the parts driver comes in, we're like, hey, we have some returns for you. They fill out their sheet, they take the returns. The return sheet goes back with the original invoice that lists the cores on it. And then it goes into a pile on my desk or the slot, if you were, where it goes. And then I wait until I get the actual physical paper copy to staple all of those things together. And then that's when it gets filed or completed. That way I'm looking at it. That way I see it. I know it's there. If it's been a week and I haven't seen that return, but I know that part is not on the shelf, then I call and follow up. The next big thing is like managing new part returns. Like you have to reduce the errors and waste in this process. New parts are sometimes returned due to ordering mistakes, incorrect installations, or defective parts. And I know there's a ton of defective parts coming into our industry, and this is affecting us all. But poor handling of these returns can lead to unnecessary losses. So even though we're busy, even though we've got a lot of stuff going on, you have to make sure that the first thing you do is double check orders. You always verify that the part you're ordering matches the vehicle specifications. When that part's delivered from the parts warehouse, wherever you get it, you always look at the invoice and you look at the box to make sure the numbers are correct. I don't know how many times I've seen, oops, that's not right. It's boxed wrong, whatever, at the receiving part of the process, because you're following up and you're doing it right there. You have to inspect parts upon arrival, which is what I was just talking about. You have to establish a protocol to inspect the new parts when they arrive, then make sure that you catch any defects or discrepancies. Remember, a minute now may save you hours later. We already talked about this a little bit. You have to let your technicians know how to identify installation issues that could lead to part damage and encourage, a culture of careful handling. I know sometimes we have to push, pull, and whack parts to get them in, but we have to really be careful with that. The other thing is you have to return quickly. Most suppliers have time limits for returns. The faster you return an unused or defective part, the more likely you're going to get a full refund or credit. Also, you have to make sure that it gets always back in the original box. That's why it's important to mark the cores up front. And then you also have to know some people don't allow returns. Like there are a lot of dealerships now that are not aftermarket friendly, is what we'll say. And so once you buy a part from them, you own it for life. So you need to know who those vendors are. Maybe you don't use them anymore. Maybe you need to create a whole new process around that. And so that leads us into, do you need to take a deposit for parts when you order them? Do you need to tell your customer, hey, under no circumstances are we going to be able to return this? Things like that. You need to know what the processes and procedures are for those companies. I've talked about it a little bit just a second ago, but I'm going to go into it more about the importance of a receiving process. The way your shop handles parts when they arrive directly impacts your parts cost. So if you have a disorganized receiving process, it's going to lead to errors, it's going to lead to lost parts, and it's going to lead to inefficiencies. I don't know how many times I've done a shop visit for a client. The parts house arrives, the driver comes up to the front, the service advisor doesn't even look up to see the ticket. They just sign their name and throw the paperwork in their pile and then go on. And then 20 minutes later, somebody's looking for those parts because they don't know where the parts person left them. It's the wrong part because we signed for somebody else's parts because they got delivered to the wrong shop, or the parts we ordered don't match the invoice because of an error like that. And so that just spins you off in hours of trying to correct those mistakes when you didn't take the 2 minutes to do it correct up front. One thing I like to have is a designated receiving area. Have a dedicated space for receiving parts. This is going to help prevent mix-ups and makes it easier to inspect and organize deliveries. Next, inspect and verify. Check every delivery against the purchase order to ensure the accuracy. Confirm your quantities, part numbers, and condition of the parts. Next thing you have to do is make sure you label and store properly. You need to label the parts with the job numbers or the customer information and then store them in a designated area. That way they're not lost or misplaced. One of the things we have in our shop is we have shelves with the technician's name on them. So all the parts, when they come in, as soon as we sign the ticket for it, it goes on the proper shelf to the proper technician. That way, whenever the technician's looking, they can come to their shelf, be like, boom, here's my parts. They're ready to go. I have a lot of other shops that have a great system. They use bins. They use whiteboard erase markers. They mark the invoice number and the customer's name on the bin. All the parts go in the bin. The bin then goes on the technician's shelf. That way, all the tech has to do is grab the bin, take it to their spot, and then they're good to go. Return the cores. And I know some people are like, oh, they all don't fit in the bins. Well, then you get multiple bins. Or, every once in a while, your half shaft's bigger than your bin, so you just set it on top. The important thing is to have a process, have a procedure, put it all in there. Okay. The other thing is you have to involve the whole team. Everyone from the service advisor to the technician should understand the receiving process and their role in it. And this goes for the owner as well. Like I was just talking about following up on the cores paperwork. That's your part of this process. That's the part you have to own. Okay. One thing I like to talk about, one thing that I include in parts cost and parts sales when I'm looking at somebody's income statement and working all that out is shop supplies. And You can be on one side of this fence, you can be on another side of the fence. Shop supplies are an essential but often overlooked component of the parts cost. For those that are new in the industry, these supplies include everything from rags and cleaning solvents to nuts, bolts, other consumables you're used during repairs. It's up to you to define what's included in that. You need to clearly identify what items are considered shop supplies in your shop, and that's going to help you ensure consistent application across all jobs, making sure you know what's in there. Next, you have to set up a shop supplies charge if you've never had one. You need to develop a standardized fee or percentage for shop supplies and communicate this policy to all your employees. If you have a great shop management system that automatically adds it, perfect. You just go in there, set your parameters, and you're good to go. That charge should be designed to cover the cost of the consumables without overcharging too much. Next, you need to review often. I want you to revisit your shop supplies process regularly. That way you ensure that your fee is still adequate to cover the cost. Make sure that we don't have any crazy stuff in there. So you need to adjust it as necessary to reflect changes in supply prices or usage patterns, right? I know somebody's out there that are like, okay, Chris, well, you told us to charge it, but how do you know what to charge? Typically, 6 to 8% of parts and labor on your tickets with a cap is sufficient to cover that. Now, people are going to be like, Chris, what's the cap? The cap can be, I would say, never less than about $28. Shops that cap it at $100. I have some that cap it at $180. It's really up to you to decide, number one, define the categories. What are we including shop supplies? What do we think that those charges are going to run us every year? And then figure out the appropriate percentage to make sure you cover that cost. Next, some of you may be like, oh, I already know this, or, I don't consider this part of parts cost, but it's a way to figure out what your parts selling price is. So this directly reflects your parts cost. Using a parts matrix is a must for modern shops. A well-implemented parts matrix can make a significant difference in your profitability. The pricing tool helps ensure that you're consistently applying the right markup to parts, protecting your margins while remaining competitive. You would think at this point that it's not that big of a deal, but I have a new client consultation today. They sent over the income statement. And of course, one of the first things I look at is, are they making enough money on parts? Are they making enough money on labor? What are their margins, et cetera? And did the math, their parts margin's 31%. And again, our target's 55% or better. So they have a long ways to go. So that's one of the talks we're going to have. They use one of the older legacy systems, but it still has a parts matrix in it. So it just makes me wonder, are we following it? What are we doing with it? First of all, you have to implement a parts matrix. If you're not already using a parts matrix, it's time to start, way past time. This structured approach to pricing ensures consistency and profitability and trainability. If you're looking to hire a new service advisor and you say, hey, this is how we price parts. We use a parts matrix. You do what it says within reason on batteries and windshield wiper blades. Everything else gets matrixed. They will stick to it as long as they see you sticking to it. The other thing I want to tell you is you have to adjust for inflation. If you've been using the same parts matrix for over 3 years, it's crucial to update it. Parts, the water pump that cost you $95 a year ago costs you $110 this year. And depending on how your parts matrix is broken out, it's probably moved you to another level. And so what we've seen is we've seen our parts margins erode about 3 to 5% as inflation's come up. So you have to make sure that you don't let your parts matrix get outdated because of inflation and market shifts. So I need you to transition to a new matrix that reflects current economic realities. The other thing is you have to monitor this regularly. You need to regularly review and fine tune your parts matrix to keep it aligned with market trends and your shop's financial goals and how you move forward. So the bottom line is, by carefully managing core returns, new part returns, your receiving process, shop supplies, and using a well-structured parts matrix, you can minimize unnecessary expenses and maximize your shop's profitability. By addressing each of these areas, this ensures not only financial efficiency, but also builds a more organized and professional operation. I need you to make it a priority to regularly evaluate your parts processes, from tracking cores to defining shop supplies and updating your parts matrix to reflect inflation and market trends. I need you to train your team to uphold these processes and hold everyone accountable for maintaining your high standards that you've set. When you take control of your parts cost, you're not just protecting your bottom line, you're creating a foundation for long-term success and sustainability in your auto repair business. I'd like to give another shout out to our sponsor, Shop Marketing Pros. They are the only marketing company I recommend, and they handle all of the marketing for my shop as well. If you're serious about growth, you need strategies that actually work, better websites, higher Google rankings, and ads that bring real customers through your doors. I need you to go out and visit shopmarketingpros.com/Chris to partner with a team that understands your business, because every great shop deserves marketing that's just as great. Thanks for tuning into the Weekly Blitz. Remember, it's time to rise, grind, and keep your mindset positive. Until next time, this is Coach Chris Cotton signing off.
You've been listening to the Weekly Blitz with Coach Chris Cotton on the AftermarketRadioNetwork.com. Follow Chris on your favorite podcast listening app. Let him know what you'd like him to cover. His email is in the show notes. Chris is all for advancing the aftermarket.